I want to start my words with a quote from one of my big heroes, whose name is Humberto Maturana. He's a Chilean evolutionary biologist and much more. I'm curious, how many people have heard of him? Would you raise your hand if you heard of him? Yay, that's so great that he is kind of spreading around. So here's a quote that means the world to me. A baby is born in the operational trust that there is a world ready to satisfy in love and care all that he or she may require for his or her living, and is therefore not helpless. Dependent, very dependent, but not helpless. I'll read it again because it takes time to take in the bigness of the difference of that picture from what we are used to. A baby is born in the operational trust that there is a world ready to satisfy in love and care all that he or she may require for his or her living, and is therefore not helpless. This is my sense of our evolutionary makeup. We evolved, as he says, he coined the term the biology of love. That we are a lineage that developed sideways from other primates, where love as an organizing principle continues into adulthood rather than dominance and submission. So great, right? Is that what we're seeing around us? Hell no. What happened? What happened that makes it necessary to dare to trust? Why does trust require daring rather than is just obvious as the way it is for a baby? Some of you have had babies. Do you know what that felt sense of the baby is just trusting it will happen? You recognize that? You've seen it, yes? What makes it change? So I've researched that question. I'm not a primary researcher, but I have read about it and thought about it, experimented with it, inquired about it for some decades. And I've reached a conclusion that is not commonly accepted in mainstream academic whatever, though the people that I most follow are themselves academic, just not mainstream. And the conclusion that comes from all that I have studied and read is that for most of our existence, we lived in this way until only a few thousand years ago, when events that threw us beyond our collective capacity to metabolize the resulting trauma led us to regress into dominance and submission, establish patriarchal states, and create multi-generational trauma that continues and reproduces itself generation after generation, after generation, after generation, and is now at an all-time height that is threatening to destroy everything that this planet has known as life, not just human life. I've heard many people say, okay, so human life comes to an end, the planet will survive. It's not for sure that the planet will survive our death if we continue at the rate that we are. We don't know, we can't know, but everything is at risk. This is what happened, and one of the core elements of that shift is loss of trust. It's loss of trust that starts with losing trust in life. When there are so many calamities, either from natural causes, or most of the time from invasions, from previously traumatized groups, the most known of which is the colonizing efforts of the last several centuries, but those are really not the first ones. When such things happen and there is like a core sense of helplessness, you lose trust in life. From there, you move into survival mode. Within survival mode, you lose trust in each other. Togetherness goes away, we live in separation. Within separation, we lose our power and our trust in ourselves. So we live in a 3-layer loss of trust. Loss of trust in life, in each other, and in ourselves. It's so immense that whenever anything happens that we don't like, we lose trust. Instead of being curious, like, why did this happen? Why did this person say this? What was going on? No. Oh, this person is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and we separate. Many people believe in restorative justice, right? You know, you've heard about restorative justice? Okay. So many people believe in restorative justice, which is about reconciliation, community coming together, processes, facilitation, recovering trust. And yet, when somebody does something we don't like, even those who believe in restorative justice, cut them off. What is cancel culture, if not an acting out of separation and loss of trust? So that's the context that makes it really difficult to trust. And that's why every single one of us, every community, every movement can act as a seed of trust so that we radiate trust around us. That's the seed of it. My second question for today is, what can be done to turn around not this or that war, not this or that crisis, not this or that situation, the roots that perpetuate this? What can we do about that? And here I take inspiration from Joanna Macy, who I know many of you know her work, and she has this concept of the great turning, either the great turning or the great unraveling, one or the other. And the great turning is made up of 3 interconnected spheres of action. One is what she calls holding actions, which are attempts to slow down the harm. Not because that in itself will ever change anything, it won't. It's because that creates a bit more room for other things to happen. And that's where I'm placing Celine, is in the valiant effort to push back on what is destroying us so that there's more room for other things to happen. The second is what she speaks of as creating alternatives. And what it means to create alternatives is to create organizations, communities, movements, even families that function in line with our evolutionary makeup. Not just speak about some future maybe, but now function is in line with our evolutionary makeup. It takes effort because the mistrust groove, as I call it, is so strong. And everything around us keeps going in the same direction. If we speak like I'm speaking now, we're called naive and utopian. Get a grip. Be realistic. That's not possible. In order to keep going, we need to have enough strength to withstand that. And we don't usually have that strength on our own. So we need each other for that strength. Exactly, it's a paradoxical thing. We need each other and we go against each other. So communities, organizations, movements can create systems, practices that support the countering of the mistrust groove, so that we can really come together, stay together, and come back together when we lose it. And the third sphere that she talks about is what she calls it shifting consciousness. I call it consciousness transformation, because shifting consciousness sort of implies that it happens once and then it's done, and I don't believe. It's like we need to constantly work on our consciousness to do the work of liberation, not just healing, actual liberation, so we free ourselves from the constrictions that were put on us, become realigned with life, and take on living the vision. So it's not just feeling better, it's not just relief, it's a commitment to serve life 24/7. And so that's the second question. These are the three things that we can do. And beware, because holding actions without working on our consciousness, more often than not, sadly, means we do the work of activism with the same consciousness that created the conditions that we're trying to change. So it requires a lot of commitment to change that. Creating alternatives run the risk of becoming isolated units. This is something Celine talked about a lot. Yeah, we are an eco-village. We do great. We have our thing, and we have all the things, and we care about each other, but there is nothing beyond. So there's something about whatever we are doing in community, in an organization, is also thinking about where does it go? How do we become a model? How do we become inspiration, not insulated within ourselves? How do we share? How do we connect with others? All the stuff that Celine talked about. And the consciousness transformation runs the risk of being reappropriated into the consumer culture. Then we do yoga, we do NVC, nonviolent communication, we do this, we do that, but where does it stay? Within. Maybe my friends, maybe I teach it to some people who can pay for it. But I don't see myself as part of a big movement that I may not know how to interact with directly, but I'm still part of something larger than me. Then it's not consciousness transformation, then it's just lifestyle. So all three interact with each other. I lost track of time. How long do I? 15 minutes? Okay, so great. So I have, I heard people ask for practical things that can be done. And obviously I can't give you a lot, but I can give a few tidbits of what can be done within communities to counter the mistrust groove within a community, specifically because that's what the focus is here. So the title of it is Becoming Islands of High Trust and Togetherness to Model to Others what it takes to restore our capacities. That is what I see as what communities can do. And specifics within it is to find baby steps that are right for the capacity of this community or movement or whatever, to compensate for our patriarchal socialization and to anchor our vision in how we function. Tiny bits. We can't just say, okay, tomorrow it's different. One tiny bit. What's a tiny step that we can take? When we see someone act in mistrust, that's the hardest thing. If somebody else already moves into separation, how do we compensate for that? How do we surround it with love and trust rather than react to it with more mistrust which escalates. That's one. Another one was mentioned earlier. In all that has happened, especially the last few hundred years, when we've been torn from land and community, our collaboration muscles, which is what our big brains evolved for, have atrophied. So what can we do to strengthen them, both in terms of skills, practices, and systems? Third is questions of power and privilege, which I know are becoming bigger within communities in Europe. They've been big in the USA, and for many years the Europeans said, racism? That's an American issue. Really? What created the United States of America if not Europe? So the seed comes from Europe, it's there, and Europeans are waking up to it. And for this, the antidote, the visionary antidote is what I call liberation for all. It's not flipping. You were a victim yesterday, now it's your turn, it's okay for you to act like an oppressor. No. It's like all of us are in this. We're affected differently. Some of us win and lose. Some of us lose and lose. But all of us lose something. And we come out of it through liberation for all. And the last one is at the level of resources. I mentioned it a tiny bit yesterday. I want to say just a word more and then open to questions, which is everything in how our societies are set up is based on resources flowing based on who has power, who already has resources, who can exchange, who offers enough value, who is liked enough, all of that. See, money comes to us in 5 different ways based on whether people like us enough. They like us enough to hire us, they like us enough to buy our products, they like us enough to give us charity, they like us enough to marry us, and they like us enough to give us inheritance. Those are the 5 ways that money comes to us. So we are oddly dependent on people liking us and being able to give something back. And I want to replace that with, within communities, it is possible to shift completely into living in shared risk and total mutual aid. Total mutual aid, not partial, not each person in their own unit with their own finances. It is possible. We're doing it within NGL. It is possible to share everything, all decisions, all resources, based on where is the need, where is the willingness, where is the capacity, what is on purpose. That's it.